remember a day early on in my journey when I shared about my struggle, about how I was very clueless about of proper digital marketing and about how I even got to digital marketing in the first place. I remember the day I shared how I didn't have a laptop when I was learning website design. So I had to wait for my husband to come back from work. And when he came back from work, it's not like I could immediately, grab the laptop because I had a 1 year old at the time. So I still had to put the baby to bed before I then had the time to like really learn this thing on his laptop, and how eventually he just saw the passion and just said, listen, keep this laptop. And that was the first like investment, right? That was the first heavy investment into my brand. That was what signified to me that I was seen and what I was looking for like was obvious, right, to this person I'm with. And this story sparked such a reaction. Like people had so many people messaged me, explaining how, nobody would have ever guessed from outside. They didn't know it was like this. And it just gave them overall hope that even though things are difficult now, they'll be fine. Like it was such a moment in my brand. And that was, I think, when I started to realize like the power of storytelling. That was when I started to see what everybody had been saying, all the strategies then, when they were saying the power of storytelling, this was it. And over time, the more I use stories to build my own brand and my client's brand, I have seen the actual power of stories. I have seen where a simple story, like what you had for breakfast, yes, that's a story, or how you got to do what you do, makes impact on a large scale. And this is because humans think in stories. Humanity in itself has evolved based on stories. What we know about our religion, about our health, about our families, all we know is based on stories. It is all of the stories that have been passed down to us that has formed such a firm belief in whatever religion that we go after, in whatever profession we go after. It is believing the stories that have been told to us. When you look at it in that perspective, you see that stories are not just for kids. Stories are not just for play. Stories are actually the foundation of this earth that we're working in. So, why do stories matter? For two reasons. First of all, people remember stories because stories make us feel something. Data is just figures, right? Facts are just boring. But stories leave you feeling some type of way, either hopeful or sad or happy or excited or disgusted. Stories touch the emotional part of you, and that is a core memory. Like emotions just make you remember. Because here's the thing, I'm a big Potterhead, you already know, right? Now, there was something about reading the books. Are you a real Potterhead if you didn't read the books? There was something about reading the books and then coming to watch the movies. And I remember how I'd be really upset when I watched the movies because what I imagined in my head while I was reading the stories, the books, they did not, of course, they couldn't have possibly gone into my head and created the dragons the exact same way as I imagined them, because they're an interpretation of another person's imagination, right? Follow me here. Here's what stories do. When I tell you a story, you picture it in your head. You have your own design as to what happened. And that means that you're already invested in that story. That means we already have a connection, because based on that one story, I have a connection to it. And now you're connected to it because you have imagined it. So stories create instant connection with your audience. If you're building your personal brand and you're not already sharing your stories, this is your cue to begin. I know that storytelling might seem daunting from the beginning, but I have news for you, and I have some free resources that will definitely help you with your stories. So stick to the end and I'll let you know how to get it. The second reason why storytelling is important is relatability. There is a way that somebody will see themselves in your story. When you share your story, there are always different points that people will meet you at. For example, when I share my day and I say, okay, so I woke up this morning, I went to the gym, I came back, finished getting my kids ready for school, I took them to school, and then I went to work. That's the story, right? That's just how my morning went. Now, the people that go to the gym in the morning are going to relate to that story. The people that have kids and have to get them ready in the morning, they will relate to that story. The people that have to do drop-offs or that have to do school runs, they will relate to that story. And the people that relate to all four will also relate to that story. I have then showed them that we have something in common. By sharing just some random part of my day, the morning, there is relatability. It lets my audience know that we do in fact have something in common, and because we are human, we gravitate to people that we have something in common with. Now that we know that we should be telling stories, let's find out how you can tell the best story ever. Now, there are core elements to storytelling that you should understand before you start putting out your stories. First thing is authenticity. You have to sit with yourself and find your stories. Stories are already there. Stories are everything that have happened to you since you started, but you want to find the story that is most relevant to the brand that you're building, and it's got to be a very honest story. The thing about it is, if you manufacture a story, the connection will not be there and the consistency will not be there. If you don't tell the truth, you will forget the core intricacies of the lie that you have created. You don't want that. This brand is here to stay. So find something that is real, sit with yourself, answer a few questions with yourself. I'm going to put together a personal branding story template somewhere in the description. Go get it and then let yourself find your stories. Allow yourself find your story so that you can connect all the dots and so that your audience will be able to connect those dots as well. A second core element of storytelling is transformation. Your story, especially your personal branding story, should have a point of transformation. It should explain how you got from whatever it is that you were doing before this thing that you're doing to doing this thing that you're doing. It should explain something that had changed between you and yourself. It should explain something that had brought you that some source of change, right? The place where friction happened. With most personal branding stories, you'll see how they were going on in life doing one thing, and then something happened to them to make them change or pivot or just shift, and now they're on a different lane. There's always that transformation story. So your story should have a transformation point where you decided to go all in solving the problem that you are solving. Thirdly, your story should be clear. It should explain how you got to the exact place that you are. It should not be vague, it should not be general. Your story is supposed to call your people in. So unless they can see it clearly what happened to you and how you got here and so on, they won't be able to reach you. They will be confused, and confused people don't take action, I always say. So your story should be clear, it should be honest, and it should have the transformation that's happened to you. Let's go into how you can find your story. First of all, find your key moments. If you look through your life, there are key things that have happened to you that are noteworthy that you have filed away. The other day, we were watching Inside Out with my kids, and Inside Out is a cartoon, right? We usually have movie nights in our house where we pick a movie and we all watch it. And while they're cartoons, I found myself really interested in this because it was about the emotions inside of us. So there's this little girl, I think her name is Riley, and inside her, there are all her emotions. So when she's a baby, there's just pure joy. And then after that, sadness joins the gang. There's disgust, there's fear, there is I can't remember. And then there were these things called core memories that were the color of whatever the feeling is that she was feeling at the moment. So you have these core memories, these core things that happened to you all through your life up until this moment that have marked you. So find them, you can write them down, take time to do the exercise. There's a lot of self-reflection, a lot of sitting with self that is involved if you're going to build your personal brand because of the personal around it. If you don't know yourself, you cannot properly communicate it to your audience. Now, when you find these stories, find the one that you can tie to your audience. You already at this point know the kind of people that you're looking to attract. You know what you're trying to help them with. And so find which of these stories, or find how to tie these stories to the person that you are right now and to the problem that you're trying to solve. So your story should explain why you are trying to solve the problem that you're trying to solve for the people that you're trying to solve it for. Now you've gotten your story, you've put it together, you've put it in writing. What next? Where do you share this story? That's a great question. Where you share the story is through your content. I'm sharing my story through my content. This video carries my story. If you take it, stroll down all of my content, you'll see one version or the other of my stories. Every time I share a story, it has an element of the core story that I have made my personal branding story. What I did was really sit down with myself. what are the things that have brought me up to this moment? And I remember that personal development was very large in it. I remember that my wanting to be a lawyer, like pretty much my entire childhood, had something to do with it. Wanting to be seen, heard, and known and respected had something to do with it. And so now I attract and I am for the women that want to be seen, heard, and respected. So when you find this story, you repeat it over and over again until your audience can tell that story on your behalf. So now, take time to reflect on your stories. Find the key things that have happened to you over the period of your life, the mistakes you made, the lessons you learned, all of the experiences that you have gathered in your wonderful, beautiful life. Put them all together and find your beautiful personal brand story that you can communicate anywhere and at any time. That way, whenever you're creating content, you're able to put that out, whether you're creating a podcast episode or you're recording a YouTube video or you're writing on Instagram or you're going on Threads or Twitter, whatever it is, you're able to share your story on the spot. And to make this easier, I created a personal brand story template for you. So check the description and you just pick it up and use it. And send me an email or drop me a DM and let me know how it worked for you. If you have any questions, also ask me in the comments and I will make sure that you get a reply. Thank you for watching this. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and join the family. We are on our road to 1,000 subscribers. So thank you for being a part of the family. And I'll see you next time. Bye.